In Ghost of Tsushima Legends, you take on the role of a ghost, a highly skilled warrior worthy of legend, but not all ghosts are the same. So I'm Darcblade with a class guide to the assassin in Ghost of Tsushima Legends. In this guide we'll cover all the basics of the assassin, including its abilities, skills, playstyles and more. Now the assassin is a warrior who has abandoned the samurai code in favour of the art of stealth and deception. As such, the assassin is an opportunistic class in Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Making use of stealth in the shadows, is able to unleash devastating single attacks on opponents, able to assassinate weaker foes or severely wound stronger ones. As such, the assassin is, as the name suggests, an assassin character, so you would scout the battlefield, thanks to your increased stealth abilities, picking off the weaker and high priority targets, whilst your allies hold up the others. With your opponents focused on your allies, you're able to sneak into position to deal deadly strikes and take out opponents very quickly. Now when it comes to the various classes in Ghost of Tsushima Legends, all of them have various techniques. These are divided into class abilities, ultimate abilities and various perks. These perks and abilities are unlocked as you level up your class. With the assassin, when it comes to the class abilities, there are two of them. First of all is Toxic Vanish. When activated, the assassin will vanish into a cloud of poisonous smoke. This poisonous smoke obviously poisons enemies nearby and staggers them. This can be then followed up by hard-hitting attacks and assassinations, as the Toxic Vanish will also conceal the assassin, cloaking it and making it nearly invisible. Being cloaked means that you're able to perform assassinations and critical strikes without fear of being seen. The other class ability is Group Vanish. Now this is very similar to Toxic Vanish, except it doesn't have the poison or stagger elements. Instead, the assassin will go invisible, just as he would with the Toxic Vanish, but on top of that, any allies nearby the assassin when he performs the Group Vanish will also be cloaked, allowing the entire party to perform assassinations and critical strikes. Whilst Toxic Vanish is great if you're a lone wolf, Group Vanish is definitely valuable when you're in a highly organised group. Now when it comes to the ultimate ability for the assassin, they have Shadow Strike. This is a skill that costs 3 resolve. Your resolve points are located in the bottom left of your screen, indicated via the various yellow pips. Anyway, once you activate Shadow Strike, the assassin will enter the shadows and strike enemies from a distance. In other words, when you activate the ultimate, you will have the ability to perform instant assassinations or critical strikes on opponents you target. When you have an opponent in your sights, press square and the assassin will instantly teleport to that foe's location to perform a Shadow Strike. By default, Shadow Strike can be used on 3 opponents. This is a nice ultimate as it's good at clearing weaker foes or dealing a lot of damage to stronger ones. Now as well as class ultimates and class abilities, every ghost has access to various perks in the game. Each ghost has access to 9 perks, although you can only choose 3 of these. Each are divided into different categories. You have perk 1 perks, perk 2 perks and perk 3 perks. These provide you various buffs, augmentations and more. With the assassin, for the perk 1s you have access to Critical Hit, Super Strike and Assassin Unleashed. Critical Hit is a skill that will inflict 30% more damage when you perform assassinations. Great for the harder difficulties, especially when you're taking out weaker foes. It just guarantees that you get that assassination on them, instead of a critical strike. Next is Super Strike. This is a perk that gives you almost a second ability. It gives you the option to perform a stronger stealth attack that deals double the normal amount of damage. You perform this by pressing triangle. However, this costs 1 resolve to perform this. Nonetheless, on the harder difficulties, this can be very helpful, especially if you get gear that will increase the amount of resolve points you can have. And then finally for the perk 1 slots is Assassin Unleashed. This basically decreases the class ability cooldown by 15%, which is definitely useful, especially if you have items that increase the class ability cooldown even further. So as you can see, all the perks in the perk 1 slot are very useful. However, I tend to prefer Super Strike, especially when you have gear, to increase the amount of resolve points you can have. Now when it comes to the perk 2 slots, you have Experienced Assassin, Light Step and Opportunist. Experienced Assassin basically allows your stealth attacks, your assassinations and critical strikes to be faster and quieter. This is a quality of life perk and it's very useful when it comes to story missions rather than survival missions. Next is Light Step, which basically allows the assassin to run silently, allowing you to quickly get up behind opponents to perform assassinations and critical strikes. Again, it could be seen as being more useful in story mode than survival, but it's still a decent quality of life skill. And finally is Opportunist, which is a skill that deals 50% bonus assassination damage to staggered opponents. so it works well in unison with Toxic Vanish or if you're using the Blowpipe, which is probably the perk to go for if you prefer the Lone Wolf playstyle of the Assassin. And then finally, when it comes to the perk free slots, you have Shadow Storm, Chain Vanish, and Legendary Assassin. Shadow Storm is a skill that grants your Shadow Strike, so your ultimate ability, 2 extra strikes. So you can hit up to 5 opponents or hit a single opponent 5 times if you wish. The next perk, and one of my personal favourites, is Chain Vanish. When you're invisible after activating Group Vanish or Toxic Vanish, if you successfully assassinate an enemy whilst you're invisible, it will reactivate the Vanish, refreshing its duration. So this allows you to go around the battlefield, assassinating the weaker opponents that you can guarantee an assassination on, thinning down the herd quite effectively. And then finally is Legendary Assassin. This is a perk that increases the amount of legendary items you can equip by 1. This is obviously an endgame perk, and it's dictated by the amount of legendary items you have to if this is useful or not. But what perks you pick is down to personal preference, in all honesty. For me, I like Super Strike out of the perk 1 slot, Opportunist out of the perk 2 slots, and Chain Vanish out of the perk 3 slots. But your choices in perks can be changed slightly depending on what gear you have available to you, so as always, it's down to personal preference. Now when it comes to the ghost weapons for the Assassin, the main one you'll want to pick is the Smoke Bomb. This will allow your ghost to throw a small bomb on the floor, unleashing a dense cloud of smoke around you that will cause enemies to lose sight of you, allowing the Assassin to perform its strong assassination and critical strike attacks. On top of that, this is the best way for the Assassin to survive in groups of opponents, as it doesn't fare well when taking on large amounts of foes. As for the ranged ghost weapons, these are pretty much down to personal preference in all honesty, and I would also advise taking the Blowpipe over a bow with the Assassin, as it's the only class that can use it, and it can debuff enemies, poison them, making them weaker, potentially staggering them and allowing you to do more damage to them. But every class in Ghost of Tsushima has pros and cons. With the Assassin, its biggest pro is its strong single target DPS, able to take out weaker foes in a single hit or deal large amounts of damage to key opponents. It's one of the best single target DPS classes in the game. On top of that, when it comes to the pros, is this class's stealth abilities, able to remain out of sight quite easily, move silently around the battlefield and get into positions that maybe the other ghosts cannot achieve. And on top of that, for the final pro, is the Assassin is also able to conceal its allies, allowing them to become invisible to either escape unfavourable combat situations or perform assassinations of their own. But unfortunately, every class in Ghost of Tsushima Legends has cons. The biggest con for the Assassin is it could be seen as having some survival issues. It can't stay in sustained combat for long, and you'll often need to make use of smoke bombs and your vanish abilities to break line of sight with your opponents, relocate, reposition, and then strike again. And the next con, which is similar to the first con in a way, is unfortunately if you're taking on groups of opponents and you don't have access to your smoke bombs or vanish abilities, the Assassin can struggle slightly, to which you may need to retreat and wait for your abilities to come off cooldown. But regardless, the Assassin is a fun class to play, especially if you like dealing out large amounts of damage to single targets, taking out key victims, and striking from the shadows. For me, this is one of my personal favourite classes. It's the first one I leveled up, and one of the ones I enjoy the most. It definitely fulfills a DPS role more than anything else, but if you like stealth mechanics, then I can strongly recommend this class. So until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a class guide to the Assassin in Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.